Final seconds of the game, a chance to score, and the chance has gone begging. If your business's commerce platform keeps missing the target on golden opportunities, get the MVP you deserve. Get Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool that you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling signed football boots from Shopify's in-person POS system or you're vending vintage shirts on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you are covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. What I love about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is truly a global force, powering Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across over 170 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to take your business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
Hello, this is international football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Ranks FC podcast.
Hello, Rank Squad, and welcome to Ranks FC. It's your favourite football, transatlantic football podcast, I should say. My name is Jack Collins, and I'll be your host today as we take a look into the current standings of the European Golden Boot race and have a little think about who we think might be top of those standings come the end of the season. And joining me to do just that is my co-host from across the Atlantic, all the way from San Diego, it's Mr. Dean Jones. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. I'm very good, actually. Yeah, very good. It's Dylan's 7th birthday today, so I've been up since 5 a.m. I'm just tapping me on the shoulder. Can we get up yet?
Did he get nice presents? He'd already opened his presents, hadn't he? He already found his football shirt.
No, he didn't. No, he got the package, but he didn't open it. So he got a Lamine Yamal kit. Yeah, that was one of his gifts. He always gets a football kit. Last year he got the Messi kit, I think. He's got a Lamine Yamal, the black Barcelona kit. Really nice, actually.
Has he decided which side of this divide he falls yet? Because he's got a few Real Madrid
properly,
shirts as well.
He's really in his player worship era. And I'm quite jealous of it, actually. I was looking through his drawer the other day, and he's got he's now got Lamine Yamal this season. He's got the Mbappe Real Madrid kit. He's got the Al Hilal purple Neymar kit. He's got a Ronaldo Al Nassr kit. He's got a Rodrigo Muniz Fulham kit.
Spot the odd one out.
Yeah. He's got whatever he's got. He's got random names on like his England kits. He's got old Man United kit. He's got a Borussia Dortmund kit. I was going through, he's got like Bellingham on the old Dortmund shirt. I was like, he's got a good little collection here. Like, I've got to keep all of these because he's got a proper collection of kits that I'm very actually jealous of, and I'm looking forward to being reborn in my second life and just looking forward to this. That's why I now want to believe in reincarnation, so that I can now have this. When I was a kid, actually on my 7th birthday, right? It was the day. Have you seen the photo of me when I was mascot for Fulham?
Yes.
Yeah, so way back in the day for like a FA Cup second round game against Cambridge United or something like that. I was mascot Fulham. That was my 7th birthday. And I remember getting to Craven Cottage that night. The attendance would have been about 4,000. And we pulled up and we were in a minibus. We were making a proper trip of it to go to this FA Cup game. And my dad said, open that bag. And I opened it up and there was a Fulham kit in there. And I was like, whoa, like whole kit. He's like, your mascot tonight. And I was like, whoa. And I was so excited. I mean, Dylan wouldn't be a mascot. He's way too scared. He's not brave enough. I'm not saying I'm not yet. I mean, I'm not saying I'm brave. I'm definitely not. But
I think it took me to 8 to get to be a mascot. And annoyingly, I was mascot when Fulham were at Loftus Road.
Oh, dear.
In the stadium relocation period whilst the cottage was being done up. So
Isn't it weird to think I was probably there?
Yeah. It's a really strange one, isn't it?
I had a season ticket behind the goal at that point, and the chances are I was there watching little Jack walk out.
It was against Sunderland. We won 2-0. Louis Saha scored for Fulham. So there you go. That was my period as a mascot. I also have, though, my first Fulham kit that I still have is from my 7th birthday. So this is a big birthday for all of us by the looks of it. I've got the yellow Demon Internet shirt.
Oh, nice one, yeah.
Which I think it was 2000, 2001. So yeah, with Colin 7 on the back. And that was my birthday present that year. So it's quite exciting. That's quite great. A fun one.
Well, that's what I was realising. I was like, God, he will actually remember these days. I look at Reece and he's 4 and he won't even really remember this part of his life probably. But yeah, Deals will remember this birthday. Anyway, he also got a PlayStation 5. So
that's good for you anyway. You can play on it.
You say it's good for me, mate. It wasn't good because he was so excited and it was lovely watching him open the box. He lost his mind. And it was like the Fortnite edition and he loved it and he was going crazy and he's like hugging the box and all of this. And then he gets it out. We bring it into this room and we start setting it up. And I was like, right, we need to sign up to get you a PlayStation account. The site was down. It was just glitching.
Oh.
It wouldn't let you every time you went to sign up, you go next to go to the next bit and it would just go back to sign in. So I spent an hour losing my mind. He did really well. He was really patient and Reece had got him a gaming headset. So he put that on and played on his Switch for a bit instead. I have now managed to set it up while he's at school. So he's at least got it to look forward to. But I was like, I felt so bad. He was so excited to have his first go on it and he couldn't get on it. That's the flaws of technology. I didn't have that back in the day with my Mega Drive.
I was going to say, what were you playing on? That Snake on a black and white Nokia.
No, Snake wasn't even close to being invented back in those days, mate. Yeah, I think I might have even been on a Game Boy or something like that at that point.
Fair enough. I think I got my aunt's old PS1. That she was like, I'm done with this now. And I was like, wicked, I can play Crash Bandicoot on this. But that was very young. I think I got a PS2. I remember we had a PS2 for Christmas and being like, this is wicked. This is like a real Bill special present. Getting super excited. So
it was funny, mate, because he goes, my friend Alistair at school isn't going to believe I've got this. And so I took him to school to drop him off and his friend Alistair runs over. And Alistair goes, what did you get, Dylan? He goes, I got a PS5. And Alistair's going, no way. Yes. And they're celebrating together. And it was so funny. But yeah, it makes it worth it, those little moments, mate.
Absolutely. Right. So we've got some interesting things to get onto today. We're going to talk about the Golden Boot in the main segment. European Golden Boot, Golden Shoe, sometimes it's called. Should probably give it its proper name. And before we do that, it's time for a little things we love, I think, Dean.
I can't really bring myself to do a things we love this, mate, because there's someone in football that is absolutely rattling me left, right and centre at the moment. And his name is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Is he all right? Honestly, He started off that he was bugging me with the thing about defending United hiking up the kids' ticket prices to £66. He was like, it only impacts 3% of the fan base, and it doesn't really make sense for us to have seats that are cheaper than Fulham. It's like, mate, do you think that it's so Fulham don't think Fulham fans aren't happy with this either?
No, we've been protesting for years now about ticket prices.
No, and just because Fulham prices are more expensive. Actually, at the moment, I'd say I'd rather watch Fulham than Man United most of the time anyway. So I think that you've probably lost some ground there. But that annoyed me. The guy's doing all these cost cutting measures. There was the thing about him cancelling Christmas basically. No festivities allowed. He's then got rid of Dan Ashworth, which is going to cost millions, right? The bloke was on gardening leave for longer than he was in the job. And they've paid $3 million to get him out of his last job. And now they're going to owe him a load more to get rid of him because they don't think he did a very good job at advising them over managerial decisions and what they've done in the transfer market so far, I would assume. And now today, a story's just come out just before we're recording, and that's why I'm doing this. United employees usually get a £100 bonus, right? Which is obviously like not a lot, but at least like it's something. It's a gesture, right? £100, they get that as their Christmas bonus. Not this year. They're getting a £40 Marks and Spencer's voucher. £40, mate. I mean, I'm not in England anymore.
They'll have to spend that on their lunch because the lunches have been stopped for employees as well.
Well, they can't even get lunch for 40 quid at M&S. It's so expensive. It's like a tenner. I love M&S, but I remember like...
I don't go there very often because I can't afford it.
There was an M&S just down the street from where I live in England, and you know, you get like, you have friends round and you get all the picky bits, right? You do that on a Saturday or Sunday, your friends are coming around, you get like the sausage rolls and you get the crisps in, the little pork pies, a few bits of chicken, bit of halloumi, couple of drinks. I can assure you one thing, that costs a lot more than 40 quid. So these people that are like looking to have just like one day of joy before Christmas, maybe get a few mates round, have a little snack, can't do it for M&S. They'll get 40 quid's worth from there, and then they have to go round to like Aldi or something to get the rest of it because they won't be able to afford it. It's just
he's also cancelled the Christmas party, I think, for employees. It's one of those things, and I think it's really frustrating when you're getting these things. And look, there are cost-cutting measures in place at Manchester United, and some of them I understand. Like, obviously, optically, it's not great to remove Sir Alex Ferguson as an ambassador, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter. He's still going to do ambassadorial things because he's Sir Alex Ferguson and he's so intrinsically related to Manchester United that that's never going to go away. And that was a lot of money that they were paying him. So I get that, right? I actually can understand the logic behind that, even if optically it doesn't look great. But some of these things, and given the Ashworth situation, and given they spent so much money to get him on board, and you know he was supposed to be this figure that was going to help change the image, but also the background running of the club, to sack him 5 months in, and look, you can talk about definition and being definitive with how you make your decisions, and I can understand that. And if it wasn't working, then obviously you have to try and do something about it if you're going to move things forward. But to give someone 5 months to turn things around and then decide, no, we spent all that money. Imagine how much that would have cost them, not just in terms of getting him out of Newcastle, but then after that, buying out his contract to sack him, right? Like these things are nuts. And so when you are doing things like this, and when you are making these big decisions that have huge financial implications, to then to sweat the small stuff in some ways, to make, say that employees can't use the canteen anymore, that's just for players, to cancel the Christmas party, to reduce the bonuses like this. In the bigger, grander scheme of Manchester United, think about that from a kind of optics versus what we're actually saving perspective. It is absolutely wild that this is the route he's decided to go down.
Honestly, mate, I mean, even the Glazers didn't do some of this. But there's fans out there that don't blind me. He might not be any worse than the Glazers at this point. He's supposed to be a guy that understands the area. He keeps
grew
talking
up
about
down the road, right?
Grew up in a council estate in Manchester. Fine, good. Like that's good that you had that upbringing and you can understand what a lot of people are going through. But clearly, like obviously that is a long time ago. But clearly, he's also forgotten about what it actually was like to be in that position, because people can't afford to spend 66 quid on their kid going to Man United 2, Nottingham Forest 3. And do you know what? I don't even, so sometimes, Jack, that it's even that people can't afford. It's that like, there's like a part of you that's like, I don't want to pay that for that. And I've actually felt that full of, and like,
it's principle, isn't it?
There is
as much as anything else,
yeah.
Like it's one of those things that be like, yeah, okay, I love going to watch my club, but ultimately I don't think, and it's, it's going to impact me for the rest of my week if I spend this amount of money, not just for me, but for my child as well, to bring them out to a family day out at Manchester United now. What's that going to cost you? The best part of 250 quid?
Like,
Honestly.
that's a sizable impact in terms of, yes, okay, people might be able to afford it in terms of where it is, but it means that it's going to conclude with other things being cut back on. And ultimately, you then got to toss up where, joy comes and what you're getting from it and what you're making, especially, in this period, and especially with the financial climate the way it is right now. I think it's incredibly sad that someone who says that they have this integral connection to the people and the understanding of the club and the people that support it has decided to completely and utterly leave them by the wayside in a period where things are pretty dark financially for a lot of people. It's really, really upsetting.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, United aren't the only club doing this, but we are getting to a situation where stands are just full of tourists. I have no problem at all with fans from other countries being able to have access to tickets to games. Obviously,
none whatsoever.
But it's going to reach a point where that is who is in the stadium, and you have lost the element of regular local support and the identity of your fan base. It's happening everywhere. It's happening. I know West Ham, Chelsea, I've got mates, both those clubs complain about it. Liverpool, they complain about it. And it's hard because we are in an age when everything is costing a lot of money. People are struggling no matter where you're at. It feels like there'll be an area of your life where you're struggling right now. And so climbing to reach these prices, it's just going to come a case of be like, do you know what? I'm not doing it. If FC United tickets are a tenner, let's go and do that because we can actually enjoy it. We can feel part of the club.
Great place to watch a game of football.
It's a great place to watch a game of football. We can feel part of it. There's chants there. We can have a drink if we want in the stands. The kids can run around if they want. They can get some sweets. They can do whatever they want. And I have noticed recently that more and more people do seem to be picking up second teams that are lower down the league ladder. And I think everyone's starting to really enjoy doing that as well, because that's what football actually used to feel like. That's what it used to be to go to the games. And yes, you want to go to Old Trafford and I was going to say watch all the big players, but they haven't really got any at the moment. But, you want to be part of that history and heritage and tradition and support Man United, a massive football club. But it ain't what it was. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe was supposed to be bringing that back. There's just an undertone to this at the moment that isn't very nice.
Yeah, I completely agree. Don't forget where you came from. Remain Jenny from the block, or Jimmy from the block, should we probably say in this regard. He is very much not
I'm still Jimmy from the block.
Well, he very much isn't, which is the main problem.
He's definitely not.
I am going to go a little bit happier with my one, but I think it's important to bring that one up. But I want to talk about Atletico Madrid, man. Atletico Madrid are in the title race in Spain. Do not write this side out whatsoever. They are currently 3 points behind Barcelona, 1 point behind Real Madrid. Both Real Madrid and Atleti have played one game less than Barcelona. So if they were both to win their games in hand, Atleti would be level on points with Barca, and Real Madrid would be 1 point clear of both of them. This is very, very exciting. And I think you're kind of looking at this and thinking, well, Atleti started the season really badly, right? And they lost in October to Betis. And at the end of that game, one, they didn't feel like they had any of their sort of old identity. They felt all over the place. And two, there was a 10-point gap to Barcelona. And now you're looking at it going, oh, okay, okay, welcome to the party. And it's funny because Barcelona have been, incredibly hot and incredibly cold this season. There have been moments where they look absolutely blistering. They've scored 50 goals already. But with that kind of return, you would expect them to be further ahead in terms of points in the league table. Then you come to Real Madrid, who, will go top if they win that game in hand, but have kind of been in sort of mini crisis for a lot of this season. And yet this is where we are. And for the first time in, a long, long time, Atleti looked the most stable of the three big clubs. And considering they had such a squad overhaul in the summer, considering the amount of new talent they made, and look, they spent a lot. We shouldn't, take away from that. This isn't a fairy tale story. But they spent a lot and it looked like it just wasn't coming together whatsoever for a lot of these things. And suddenly it's just like Atleti have something very, very special about them. And the way they won at the weekend, they were 3-1 down. They were 1-0 up and then they were 3-1 down to Sevilla. And everyone was absolutely in agony at the stadium, people, head in hands, wailing and gnashing of teeth, if you will. And then suddenly they go on this absolutely outrageous comeback. And it was incredible. Like Griezmann scores the first to sort of get them back on the road. And we'll talk about him a little bit more in a second. Samuel Lino comes off the bench. Koke comes off the bench as well, sets up Lino for the goal that makes it 3-3. And then 94th minute, Lino sets up Griezmann, and Griezmann, beautiful turn, glorious finish, and the place goes absolutely ballistic, absolutely ballistic. Griezmann is there, and he's taking his shirt off, and he takes the bit with the Atleti badge, holds it up to the crowd, and I think Sid Lowe put it beautifully in The Guardian. He basically says that the rest of the shirt was streaming down his arms like banners off a trophy. And I was like, oh, that's really lovely, really nice. And the man they call the Little Prince, Prince Pito, just, having come back to the club under a real cloud, having come back in and being like, the Atleti fans being like, no, you left. We don't want you here. You made your choice. And him being like, what can I do to win you back? And they were like, first off, cut your hair. And so he went and did that. He wore the 8 shirt for a little while because he couldn't have his 7 back. But he has been absolutely exceptional for the best part of 2.5 years now at this point. And Simeone said earlier after the game, basically, that nobody has arguably ever given more to the club than actually what Griezmann gives week in, week out. But this isn't the first time that they've come back or, picked up something in a game late. Obviously, that 95th minute equaliser against Real Madrid. They got a late winner against Leipzig and against PSG in the Champions League. They took, I think, after 80th minute winners in the games against Alaves, Celta Vigo, Athletic Club. And then they did the same against Leganes, even in the cup when they should have beaten 4th-tier Cacereño. They absolutely needed late goals to actually see that one off. They keep finding a way late in games, and they've just got this feeling about them. And look, they might not win the league, but they have this feeling about them of cohesiveness, that they have an identity. The players coming off the bench are making a difference. And you look at it, the players they're able to bring off the bench. Koke comes off the bench. Alexander Sorloth comes off the bench. I mean, he should have scored at least twice. He had 4 headed chances in about 3 minutes. Sure. Angel Herrera comes off the bench and obviously scores late goals. That's what he does. Samuel Lino comes off the bench and scores. Witzel came off the bench. They've still got Rodrigo Riquelme, who didn't come off the bench. Robin Lenormand is on his way back now. He was on the bench for this one. Reinildo, the depth, all of a sudden, looks absolutely terrifying. And with Giuliano Simeone playing really, really nicely, Rodrigo de Paul adding goals to his game and not just sort of shuttling about, being a nightmare for everybody else. Pablo Barrios looks so comfortable in this system. Conor Gallagher has gone from the shining light to just a really key cog in the Atleti system. I love watching them at the moment. And there is just this sense of inevitability about them that I don't have at the moment with Real Madrid and Barcelona. And so whilst this might change, and look, either of those sides might go on a storming run across the back half of the season, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Right now, Atleti feel like the most settled, the most cohesive of these 3 sides. And it's so exciting. And in Griezmann, they have a player who's currently on a Ballon d'Or trajectory, and I'm going to say it again.
What? They'll lose to Slovan Bratislava on Wednesday, just as now that you've given them all that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Colin's curse strikes again.
Yeah, if you're laughing as you're listening to this, I get it. He's come a long way since he made that Netflix documentary, mate, Making of a Legend. Do you remember how much that wound me up?
Turns out he was just a couple of years too early.
Yeah, I can remember so clearly at Bleacher Report when that was coming out and just slamming him for it. It was he seemed to change in that little period of his career, didn't he? Going to Barcelona and stuff.
I think maybe he thought he had to be a superstar. Maybe. And now he's kind of realised that actually he's loved for who he was and that he didn't need to go and, be a different person in order to be adored. Maybe, if he had gone and been that person, maybe he would have won a Ballon d'Or right now, right? But would that mean more to him than winning this league with Atleti? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he's realised where home is. He's realised the people that love him. He's realised where he's comfortable. Yeah. And we're seeing the best and final form of Antoine Griezmann. He was always brilliant. but he just feels like he's on another level once again. He just makes things happen so regularly in these games. And again, I said it when, the France thing came out and he retired from international football. And I was like, Deschamps should go back on his hands and knees with the captaincy to Antoine Griezmann, who was really the player that was making it all happen. And look, right now he's the player making it all happen for Atleti.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Confession, I haven't watched enough of Atleti this season. I
9 wins in a row, Dean. 9 wins in a row. 5 in La Liga. They are red hot.
It's funny, I was looking the other day at how many goals they've scored recently, and I was like, I really do need to make more of a point of making sure I'm watching more of Atleti than the 4-minute highlight packages every week, because there's clearly something in the water here right now. And at a time when that we thought Barcelona were going to start to run away with it after they won the Clásico, and they've sort of been reined in and they've started to lose games. Yes, Atleti are in third at the moment, but 3 points behind Barcelona with a game in hand, Real Madrid wedged in between them. We've got a proper title race in our hands, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've given a lot of love to Atalanta in recent weeks, and actually their trajectories have been quite similar in terms of the league. So I wanted to just give some Atleti flowers out. Shouts out Cholo. Shouts out Giuliano Simeone, who has beaten all the accusations of nepotism and is just performing week in, week out for the side. Oh, mate, they're so good to watch. And I am loving it at the moment. This didn't need to be as hard as it was, but my God, it was entertaining. Probably right up there with the games of the season in any league so far.
Nice.
All right. We will leave things we love there. We've gone over a little bit, but we will talk about this European golden shoe race after the break. Don't go anywhere.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
Welcome back to Ranks FC, where it's time for our main ranking. And Dean, it's going to be interesting how we do this. What I'm going to start with is by actually just reading out all of the people that are currently sort of in contention, should we say, for the European Golden Shoe, because it's quite a tricky list to examine at this point of the season, because some leagues obviously work from sort of like March to December, the summer leagues, if you will. So there's a bit of randomness in terms of some of the names that are coming up. So we'll talk about this. There's also this coefficient thing that comes into play. So basically, for simplicity, the top 5 leagues in Europe all get their goals times by 2 in the coefficient because they are the most difficult leagues to score in. Then the sort of mid-tier leagues, so the ones like the Eredivisie, the Russian Premier League, the Portuguese Primeira, all get a 1.5 goal kind of multiplier. And then all the bottom leagues get a 1 goal multiplier. So it does look a little bit weird. It's also probably worth noting that this is only league goals that count, right? So this doesn't include Champions League goals in the list. So currently at the top of the list is Robert Lewandowski, who scored 16 times, which by a coefficient of 2 gives him 32 points, if you will, in the Golden Shoe race. Behind him comes Harry Kane with 14 goals, 28 points. And behind them both is a man called Alex Tam, who plays for a side called Kalju, who are in Estonia. He scored 28 goals across the course of the Estonian season. Kalju didn't win the league despite this, which is a bit of a shame for him, but he is currently third in that race. And I imagine he's got a screenshot to show the grandkids. Lewandowski, Kane, Tam. Like, he's going to absolutely have that one on the wall for a little while. Look, I think the thing to note about these is that whilst they're up there now and it makes for good conversation, and also we should honour what they've done for their respective clubs, they're not going to be up there towards the end of the season. So they're going to be excluded mostly from the conversation going forward. But I did want to give Alex Tam, and there's a couple of others, their flowers as well. Fourth, currently, Omar Marmoush, 13 goals. He's level with Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland, all of them playing in a top 5 league. So they've all got 26 points. Then comes Victor Gyökeres, who's currently scored the most goals in at least a kind of winter league, if you will, with 17. But he plays in the Primera, so he's only got a 1.5 coefficient. So he has 25.5 points for his efforts. And then behind him comes a man called Reginaldo Ramirez, who plays his club football in Latvia. He actually switched clubs halfway through the season from Aura to Riga. He didn't win the league either. So I'm saying for him, he got 25 goals and 25 points. Letegi comes next with 12 goals, 24 points. Then there's a man called Paul Kletskard, who plays his football in the Faroe Islands, scored 23 goals for Klaksvik. They also didn't win the league. There is a theme starting to develop in this one. Manfred Ugalde is an interesting one in at 11. He plays for Spartak Moscow. He is a Costa Rican striker who's already netted 15 times in the Russian Premier this league. I don't think he's going to be in our ranking, but he is a player worth keeping an eye on. 22 years old, was bought from Costa Rica by the City Football Group. He went out on loan to Lommel, I think, in Belgium, and then basically ended up at Twente in the Eredivisie before moving to Russia this summer. He is not probably going to be in this conversation, but I do think he's a name you should probably keep an eye on, because I think someone is going to pick him up relatively soon and take a gamble on him. Jonathan David, currently at 12 with 11 goals. He's level with Cole Palmer and Rafinha. They're all on 22 points. And then there's a couple of others who are just outside the top 15. Bradley Barkala, Mason Greenwood, Marcus Thuram, Chris Wood and Ante Budimir, all on 10 goals and therefore 20 points. So there's where it stands right now. And I think it's probably worth us kind of having a look through this, but also we're going to go through 5 to 1 and kind of work out where we think people are going to land in this list. And we're both going to give our respective opinions. So Dean, who do you think comes in at 5 this season?
I'm going to go for Gyökeres. It's going to go Gyökeres.
This is where I have him as well.
Well, it's a bit unfair on him, isn't it? Because he's as good as all the other players in the list, but he's just being judged differently because he's playing in Portugal rather than one of the other leagues. And obviously, like, you could argue, well, that is why he's scored 17 goals so far, because he's in Portugal. It's like, yeah, but Gyökeres will score whoever you put him up against at the moment because he's that good. But yeah, his goal value is only 1.5. It's not 2. And so he's up against it here. As you say, at the moment, he's 7th in the list. And I look at the players that are above him, to be honest, even a couple that are just below him. And he's not going to have what it takes to win it, because he'd have to score an extraordinary amount of goals.
He basically has to score like 0.5 times more goals. Well, sorry, like a kind of like he has to score 1.5 goals to everybody else's, basically, to come out on top of it. So it's quite hard, because I think Gyökeres will score the most goals in
he scored more than Lewandowski already, right?
Yeah, I think he'll keep that pace up. Even if Sporting aren't as good anymore, I still think he will hold that pace and he will score goals across the course of this season. So I think he comes up with the most number of goals here, but I don't think he outscores everyone else by 1.5 in order to actually push his coefficient up.
He's got to leave Sporting. He's got to be taken seriously. It'd be like, why is my goal value so low in this list? I've got to leave just for personal reasons at the moment.
It's the most compelling argument I've heard yet for him to leave Sporting.
Exactly. There isn't any other, like, for football reasons, like, he's in a great spot. Well, obviously they're struggling a little bit on the back of Amorim leaving, but they'll re-find their feet. And it also makes you think, and he'll have to think about when he does make that move, like, where is he going to go? Where can he, by this stage of the season, have 17 goals to his name? It's very difficult to do. I mean, he's 26 now, so he's like primed for those golden years of goal scoring.
Yeah.
And I do find it interesting that when we consider the top scorers at the moment in this list, that Lewandowski is top at 36 years old and Kane's up there at 31 and Salah's not far behind at 32. So there's still plenty of time here for Gyökeres to get his hands on a trophy like this. But yeah, the sporting factor is going to play against him. But still, even finishing top 5 when you're being judged differently to most of the other people on the list is extremely impressive.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's really interesting seeing how this kind of pans out with the new sporting coaching in João Pereira and what that looks like, because they have been poor, right? So far under Pereira, it hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked the same. There's been far more of a drop-off than I was expecting. So you're kind of getting to that point and thinking, well, how does that affect him going forward? But I still think he will carry on at a pretty good goal-scoring rate, right? That does feel like where it's going to be. But yeah, I think this coefficient is going to hold him back.
Yeah, his goals per match at the moment is 1.31, which is extremely good. So it's thinking if you go through the entire list actually of names that we've got in this top 25, like Gyökeres is way better scoring rate than all of them. The closest you'd get is Harry Kane, who's at 1.17. So he's doing the best he can, but it's still not going to be enough to win this one.
Yeah, okay, I completely agree. I was interested to see if you'd even put him in your top 5 at that coefficient, but I think that's
he has to be there. He has to be there because I don't think it'll ease up.
Okay, all right. Who are you going for at 4?
4 is difficult, but Erling Haaland.
Okay, all right. Do you want to explain yourself?
So Haaland got 27 goals last season. He's got 13 so far this season in 15 games. What's interesting actually is Haaland sets himself the standard, doesn't he, of a goal a game at least. He wants to have this record at the end of his career where he's got that. At the moment, he's a 0.87 goals per match, which he will be judging himself harshly on that one, I tell you. But obviously started off the season as you would expect Haaland to do, banging them in. And it's all started to dry up a little bit because of this mess that Manchester City have found themselves in. And it's just very, very difficult to predict how it goes from here. And it's also very difficult to give him the benefit of the doubt that it's all going to be okay. Because there are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Premier League matches so far where he hasn't scored a goal. And the thing that you were seeing at the start of the season, obviously, is like the hat-tricks. So banged in like successive hat-tricks against Ipswich and West Ham, and you're like, okay, fine, that's what Haaland does. He comes in these goal gluts. But that hasn't been happening. And so obviously that's partly because of the team around him being different. He hasn't got the same delivery. He hasn't got the same combinations. He hasn't had De Bruyne. And Man City have obviously just not been as good. We'll have to see what January brings because that might be the key to unlocking the full Haaland. I mean, I think he genuinely would have been quite relieved when he saw his header against Palace land in the net the other day because he must have been feeling like, oh, this will be my fourth game in a row in the Premier League without a goal. Like, I can't let that happen. It didn't happen. But I just don't have enough faith in Man City being Man City that he can get to the level that he needs to be. I just feel...
You've changed your tune since last week. Last week is, what does Pep do to turn this around from here?
Yeah, but I know, I said in that one, I was like, this would be the greatest comeback of all time. Well, this would be a great comeback too from Haaland to go on and win the Golden Boot. He can be extremely consistent. Man City can be the most attack-dominated side in the world. But it's really difficult to look at this and project a number that would allow Haaland to actually win this award this year. So he's on 13 goals at the minute. So he's 3 goals off the pace of Lewandowski, say.
That's one hat-trick, though, and he loves a hat-trick.
Yeah. Just to put it all into context, I mean, Harry Kane won this last year with 36 goals. So, and behind him was Girassi on 28. So let's say you've got to get to 30, right?
Yeah, I think you do.
And 30 as a marker for Haaland is achievable for sure. You've still got plenty of time to do that. But I can't at the moment watch Man City and confidently say that he can do it ahead of the 3 players that I'm going to have in the places above him. That's more the case. He can get to 30 goals, but the 3 above him have much better chance, I think, of doing that.
Yeah, so I think that's a fair question. I've put Harry Kane here, right?
What? You're mad. You're mad.
Well, where is Harry Kane currently?
Second.
No, where is he currently? Like, what's he doing right now?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what he's doing right now. He's recovering from a hamstring injury.
I thought you meant quite literally. What is he doing now? I thought you'd just seen a picture of him like on a beach or something.
No, he's recovering from a hamstring injury. And this is the second hamstring injury that Kane has picked up already this season. Now, none of them have been severe, and they're not ruling him out for like significant lengths of time. But I am concerned that Harry Kane's body is probably starting to feel the wear and tear of this a little bit more. And I think because of that, company will try to protect him a little bit, especially with Matthias Tell there, who has got that capacity and looks like he's going to be one for the future who's going to be banging in goals for Bayern Munich, right? I think he also has a plethora of attacking options. We're yet to see Musiala in that 9 role, which is something that I'm quite intrigued by. Brilliant bit on this, by the way, in the Stadio podcast with Musa Okwonga and Ryan Hunn, and highly recommend on this Monday's podcast, where they talk about why it might be really interesting to see Musiala in that 9. But I think that with Kane just starting to pick up a few injuries, I just think his minutes are going to reduce a little bit over the course of the back end of this season. And whilst I reckon that he might end up on this list as the top player in a top 5 league in terms of goals per game, I just have a funny feeling he plays slightly fewer games than perhaps people are expecting to, or that he scored last year. So I'm just going to squeeze him in here. That's where I'm at on it.
I just don't believe it at the moment. I think Kane looks after himself brilliantly. And I think that when you look at his injury history, it's been really good. He's kept himself in really good shape. He doesn't miss many matches, didn't miss that many games for Tottenham. There was one spell like 4 years ago now.
Yeah, I agree with all of this.
When he missed a lengthy spell. And at Bayern, since he's been there, he's missed 5 games through injury, right? And he's missed 3 at this point with this problem. But I would have faith in Harry Kane managing his body well enough that this does not become a recurring problem, and that it doesn't stop him from putting up a decent fight at the very least to defend his crown here.
Yeah, that's fair. I also think that there's probably not going to be loads between the top 4, so it's
there's
not.
That
in there.
Yeah, there's really not going to be much between these players at the top.
That's why I've put Kane a little bit lower down. I just don't like the fact that there's been 2 hamstrings in the course of about 2 months.
He's the best. Like Harry Kane is the best goal scorer in the world at the moment. He's playing in the Bundesliga.
I take all those points. Like I really do. I just have a funny feeling, mate, like that it's just not going to be a smooth sailing in the second side of the season.
You're making some bold calls. You called Liverpool's title in the bag last week, and now you're saying Harry Kane won't win the Golden Boot and he's going to come 4th, actually. That is a bold call. So fair play to you.
Yeah,
you can go first this time. Who have you got at number 3?
This is where I've really started to struggle. And I'm not 100% sure that I believe my own source when I'm talking about this, but we'll go for it now. This is where I've got Erling Haaland. I agree with all of the points you've made. I really wanted to put Matteo Retegui in here because I have a funny feeling he is going to explode at some point. But the thing holding me back from that is that Scamacca is probably going to be back in the new year. There are games where obviously Gasperini hasn't fancied him from the start, like the Milan game last Friday where he came off the bench. Now, he often scores off the bench, so it's not necessarily a cut and dry. But I just wonder about how many minutes he's going to have to share with Scamacca when he gets back. So that's why I'm leaving Retegui out very reluctantly. And this is where I'm going to put Erling Haaland. Because as the point you very nearly made, I think that City are going to have to go for broke in the January window because there's too much of this that doesn't feel right. And I think that once that feels like there's a core back again. Haaland is going to be the man that they look to, and ultimately is the man they look to. One of these things that I criticised City for, and one of the reasons I said that I didn't think they would win the title is because there isn't loads of goals coming from elsewhere. It's because so much of their goal scoring kind of one-dimensionalness comes from basically looking for Erling Haaland wherever they find him. And as they start to get on a roll again, and I think they will, they're going to look to him even more to be that guy that leads it. And I think that just with all of that said, he might just get this push towards the end of the season. And as they start to fight for things, maybe not the title, but maybe if they're in this top 4 scrap at this point, wherever they are in the table, they're going to be fighting for something. And I do think that Erling Haaland is going to kind of pick up the pace again and kind of get to that level where you're expecting him to knock in around 30. Just feel like he'll play more games than Kane over the back end of this season in the Premier League compared to the Bundesliga. And that's why I'm going to put him in at 3rd.
We'll see. At the moment, in terms of goals per match, I'm just looking at it here. Haaland is listed 10th in terms of his competitors. Obviously, a few of those are playing in lower leagues. But yeah, I mean, that is not where you would typically expect Haaland to be. So interesting that you haven't gone for him at number 1, and neither of us are going for him at number 1 because he is still Erling Haaland. He does still play for Manchester City, and he probably is still arguably the best goal scorer in the game. So even at 3, and neither of us bold enough to put him in at number 1, just goes to show that there has been a fall off this season for the club and possibly the player.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you know who I've got at 3, Dean? Who have you got at 3?
I'm going to go for Lewandowski, but honestly, I'm not even sure he makes the top 5, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, to be honest. In terms of durability, I don't know what we've got here, but in terms of pedigree, we've got everything from Lewandowski, so you kind of can give him the benefit of the doubt in that respect. He's 36 years old now, and that could go either way. One, you can trust him to take the chances that come his way. And the other side of it is like, what will his usage be in the second half of the season? And how can this team continue to raise chances for him and make sure that he's out there continually to actually take those moments? So I'm saying this one really to give him the benefit of the doubt more than anything, mate, because honestly, I was tempted coming into this to completely leave him out.
I'm going to shock you now and say, well, not shock you in that regard, say that I've left him out of mine.
You've left him out completely?
I've left him out of my top 5.
I didn't think you'd be brave enough to do that.
I think Robert Lewandowski has been absolutely sensational this season so far, and what he's brought to that side is amazing. I've just got a funny feeling Barcelona go and sign some sort of striking firepower in January, because I think they're lacking someone to rotate with him. And I think if they're going to do that, they've got to go slightly bigger than perhaps they would have hoped at this point in order to try and get themselves in a conversation for a lot of different things. So they're going to need someone who's going to, at the very least, share minutes with him, because I don't think Ferran Torres is doing the business in that regard. Now, I talked about this on one of our postbox shows that were released on Patreon earlier. It was a suggestion from one of our patrons that Jonathan David might be a really interesting pickup for Barcelona, not just because he's out of contract in 7 months' time, but also because he can play at times off the left and has had kind of form there. Now, I don't love Jonathan David off the left, I'll be honest, but he can play there in a pinch. And I just wonder if they go for someone like a Jonathan David, who also, is in this list. He's got 11 goals, and so he's only actually one behind Retegui and, a couple of points behind Gyökeres in this table. And, maybe he's an outside candidate for this. This is kind of where I'm at with, if he comes in, he has to at the very least share duties with Robert Lewandowski. He's not going to come in there to sit on the bench. And if Lewandowski wants to play Champions League football, which I think is going to be a big concern, I think there are games, and there are maybe smaller games where Hansi Flick has to rotate goals that maybe you would fill your boots in a little bit against the teams at the bottom of the table, your Valladolids, for example, that maybe Lewandowski doesn't quite play as many times in. And that might just hold him back, considering that this is only a league system. Now, I could be wildly wrong on this, but I just have a hunch that Flick is going to want to keep him fresh for the biggest matches. And that means maybe not being able to rack up those goals in the same way that you might if you were playing week in, week out, in a sense that maybe an Erling Haaland has to, because Man City don't feel like they're going to go and sign a striker in January.
Yeah.
So Like that's the only reason I'm not putting him in, not because I think his goal scoring form is going to fall off, just because I think Hansi Flick is going to have to be a bit careful. We've seen signs of it already, right? He was rested in that game against Mallorca that they played in midweek last week. Ferran Torres led the line in that game. So there's already signs that he's going to be rotated. And I think that if they go out and they kind of go heavy on a striker or like a wide forward who can play through the middle in January, it might just mean that Lewandowski plays far fewer games and far of the games that he might bag a couple of hat tricks in, for example.
Yeah, my issue with this isn't really even levelled at Lewandowski himself. It's more levelled at the team around him and their consistency to maintain the level that they were at up until that Real Madrid game. Obviously, Lewandowski did score twice in the Clásico, and it was a big moment, and it was like, wow, like he can still do it. They've beaten Real Madrid 4-0. Well, since that moment, when they looked clear of Madrid, the wheels have started to come off a little bit, and you've seen that when Lamine isn't there, things aren't as fluid, and Barca have had injury problems, and they will have more injury problems. And since that Madrid game in La Liga, he's only scored twice from 5 games, and he's played almost every minute of those 5 games as well. That's one thing with Lewandowski that's pretty amazing, actually, across this season. When he plays like at least 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Which at 36 years old is very good going. I saw Hansi Flick speaking about him recently, and he's talking about how Lewandowski just takes unbelievable care of himself, and that they are assuring fans that they are not going to put him in any danger. They are also like maximum care for this guy. They won't put him in danger of burnout.
He eats his dessert before his dinner.
Does he?
Yeah, it's part of his routine. His wife's a nutritionist. She's a famous sports person as well, but she became a nutritionist after her career, and she basically does all of the nutrition stuff around him. It's a really interesting story. Like, they have like set temperatures for sleeping and all sorts. It's like mad kind of lab stuff. But yeah, they eat dessert before dinner because of like the blood levels and blood sugar levels and the spike, and trying to kind of
They have dessert every night.
Yeah, I think so.
What?
Well, he does do a lot of running at training and stuff, doesn't he? So
he does, yeah. I mean, I don't have dessert at home. I don't know about you.
No, not really. At the moment, I've got an advent calendar, so I have a little chocolate, which is nice. But no, generally, it's not something
I might have a chocolate biscuit with a cup of tea.
They are our podium places. We're going to take a break there. When we come back, we're going to round this off with numbers 1 and 2. Don't go anywhere.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
Welcome back to Ranks FC. We have done 5-4-3 in who we think are going to finish in the European Golden Shoe race. And now it's time for the top 2, silver and gold. Dean, who are you going for in that silver medal position?
I've decided to go for Mo Salah. The consistency of this guy has been phenomenal this season. Liverpool's performance levels have been extremely high in the main. And the thing that stands out is that even when they're not at full capacity, he scores goals. They tend not to lose, and they're going to continue to, I think, remain consistent throughout this season. In the Premier League, there are only 3 matches in which he hasn't scored out of the 14 that he's played so far. Okay, he's not bagging hat-tricks here and there like some of the others in this list, but 1-1-1 still looks good when you're scoring in successive games.
Yeah.
And Salah,
as good as a hat-trick and 2 blanks, right? Like, it's the
he's
same amount
just
of goals.
always scoring, mate. He's just always there and always scoring. And the penalty factor is obviously important in terms of like giving yourself a chance. And I think that we all, in the main, trust Salah. Obviously, he had recently had that wonky one that he flashed wide. But away from that, it was Real Madrid, wasn't it, where he stuck it wide? Yeah. But away from that, I really just haven't had any concerns about Salah. And on the flip of that, really, I've been extremely impressed with how he's managed to retain the levels from past years. I don't think he's as involved as he has been in the past, but somehow he's become as explosive as ever. Like, when his moments come, he's as dynamic and he makes the right choices as much as ever. And I just trust him to get this done. And I think that halfway through this season, I think we will see contract news come out too. And I think that will also give him a push. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say that when I'm measuring this sort of decisions, it's not just about the player, even though I do take into account like his personal creativity, whether he's on penalties, what is his role in this team, how much is he counted on to score goals, and he ticks all of those boxes. But do we know that he can maintain a goal scoring level momentum like this? And yes, he can. And 2, can his team do that and continue to make chances for him? And yes, they can. Okay,
well, you've gone Salah at 2. I'm not going to quite reveal where I've got him yet. And I've also got a wild card pick to come in here at 1, which is always fun. But Dean, does that mean you're going for the reigning champion at number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to look past Harry Kane, as you probably got an idea of earlier on in the show. I just think that there's too much in his favour here. We all know Kane's finishing ability. We have seen how ruthless Harry Kane can be and will be when he gets the opportunity to do so. And I don't, to be honest, believe he will miss enough games across this season to not go ahead and win this award, because Kane, when you look at his record so far this season, he's got 3 domestic hat-tricks. He scored 4 in one game in the Champions League. Like, this guy will just absolutely eat up opponents. And his prolific scoring is just done in a number of ways. He will be in the right place at the right time to score the tap-ins. He will use his body to swivel and shoot on the turn to score some what might call a scruffy goal, or scrawny goals, as we used to say on Ranks FC. He will score the headers that we know. He will score from outside the box. He will score free kicks. He will score penalties. His set piece ability is great. His playmaking is also really great, which will lead to goal scoring opportunities, which actually he then goes and picks up the rebounds and bits and pieces from and ends up scoring anyway. Yeah, I mean, he won it last year with, 36 goals. Not sure he'll get to that same number, but I find it extremely hard to believe that if he does stay fit, which I'm backing him to do for enough games, that Harry Kane doesn't go and win this award.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
You go with his Bundesliga title finally, as he puts that hoodoo behind him, and he's going to have loads to celebrate at the end of the season.
This is the thing. I think, honestly, as he starts to win team trophies, which he will do, I think, this season with Bayern, the individual awards are going to drop off. It's going to be, he's had to trade one for the other. It's like a pack with Mephistopheles. You have to give up the individual awards for the team one. So we'll see how he reacts to that. I am not going to shock you by saying that I'm going to put Mo Salah at number 1, but I'll come back to him because my wildcard pick at number 2, who is currently outside the top 10 right now.
Okay, let me think who that could be. I was just looking at it a second ago thinking, who on earth could he pick? Well, you going for Cole Palmer?
No, I'm not going for Cole Palmer. I think he's too creative. The player I am going to put in, I think in my silver position, is Marcus Thuram.
Harsh on Chris Wood, but okay.
Harsh on Chris Wood, yeah, and Johan Wisser as well. But currently 10 goals. So he's currently 6 behind Lewandowski, 4 behind Kane, 3 behind Salah. But what I've noticed, and I've been noticing, is that Marcus Thuram plays pretty much every game in the league for Inter. It's actually the Champions League games where he's played a lot from the bench. Okay. Obviously, we'll see what that looks like when they play Leverkusen this week. But generally, it's been the league games that he has played pretty consistently. He's been getting minimum 70 minutes in pretty much every single one of these games. And Thuram's a bit of a streaky scorer. When he scores one in a game, he tends to bag a couple, right? And I think that there are a couple of games coming up where he might just start to knock these in on a regular basis. And he's been looked at to kind of carry the Inter goal scoring load. And there have been games this season where he's not been, at the peak of his powers. But of late, you started to notice him really getting into those goal scoring positions. You started to notice that he is the one driving Inter forward on a regular basis. And I think as they get into the second half of this season, they will look at this league table and think, that's not reflective of where we want to be. They are defending champions. They are going to want to go back to back. I think they will feel that they can go deep in both competitions and the squad depth is there. But I think that, top of the priority list for Inter is kind of starting this era of dominance in Serie A. And I think that with these challenges from Atalanta and from Napoli and maybe Fiorentina, we don't know how long that one will last right now. There is a sense that I think they're going to have to go hammer to the wall on where they're going to come. And I think those goals are going to be taken on majority-wise by Marcus Thuram. I think he is going to be seen as the player that is going to do the job for them week in, week out in the league. And I just feel like there is a point there he's going to absolutely rocket up these rankings as Inter get towards the end of this season, as they're really, really scrapping for the title race. So he's my wild card pick. I'm putting him in very high at number 2. Yeah. But I can't get over the idea that I think Inter are going to go Super Saiyan at some point in the league, because I think that actually with Atalanta and Napoli in there as serious contenders, they didn't really have that towards the end of last season. Yes, Juve were there and thereabouts for some of the season, but it kind of felt inevitable that Inter were going to win it by sort of December time, I think. And this season, it doesn't feel like that. And I think they're going to have to focus their attention a little bit more on Serie A. And it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But I feel like Marcus Thuram might be one of the people that gain the most from that, kind of having to actually dial in and focus week in, week out on retaining the Scudetto. So I'm going to put him in here. It's a bold call, but It is
a bold call. I mean, he's a player that doesn't typically manage to get over 15 for the season. And I know he's on like 10, 11 right now. But, he hasn't got that history of getting to 30 goals. So this would have to be a hell of a run that he goes on from here to the end of the season.
I feel he feels really comfortable in this Inter side. And he's been given that kind of, here's the number 9 shirt. You're our guy. We trust you. I just feel like it's a team that's going to create a lot. They are just a beautifully run team. And I think that he is going to have a really, really massive second half of this season. So he's my wild card. But on a lot of the things that you said, I'm going Mo Salah, top of this list. I've already called that I think Liverpool are going to win the league. And I think that the main protagonist of that, as you say, with a new contract coming in, we're going to see how all of that pans out with different things. But I think he's going to be the man that takes them over the line. And I see Mo Salah absolutely throwing it down hard in the second half of this season to carry this Liverpool team after being rewarded with this new contract that's now being talked about quite widely. So I don't need to extol the virtues of Mo Salah to almost anybody. His goal-scoring form speaks for itself. His consistency speaks for himself. And I think that what he's putting together in this team as its kind of protagonist, as its main man, but with an incredibly creative core around him, is going to see him top this table this year. So excited to see what he does. But there's my call for Mo Salah.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously Liverpool's top goal scorer in Premier League history. It just has such consistency in terms of what his output is. He's up there already with like the all-time leading Premier League goal scorers. And he is the highest active player in that list at the moment within the Premier League. And he's still going. And you see the moments when he reaches landmark numbers, it still means a lot to him.
Yeah,
that goal he scored against Southampton when he took his shirt off, like he's enjoying those moments. I think possibly more than ever I think that's probably the thing that's interesting about Salah this season. He isn't slowing down. There is no sign of this tip-off that I did think was coming, to be honest with you. And I think there were signs of it last season that it might be. Maybe Arne Slot has revitalised him a bit. Maybe he's got a bit more verve because he believes that this could be the real deal. They could actually go on and win the Premier League. I don't know what it is exactly, but he's got ridiculous stats across the board anyway throughout his whole career at Liverpool. But he seems very motivated to go ahead and do something like this.
Yeah, I think individual awards, we were talking about them with Harry Kane. They've been kind of all he's had. I think Salah is there like, hang on, man. I want this Ballon d'Or. I honestly do think that there's probably a part of that. And he's like, look what I'm doing. Look what I've been doing. Yeah. I have not been recognised to the full potential of my powers. And perhaps he's found the verve this year to be like, right, I'm going to go out and show everyone exactly what I'm made of if they hadn't seen before, which I suppose they'd have to be living under a rock to not seen that.
He just scored again today, didn't he, mate? As we were recording this, they've just finished their game against Girona. It was 1-0. It was Salah. It was a penalty. All the reasons above absolutely underlined.
100%, 100%. All right, and we are going to call the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this little walk through the European Golden Shoe. I'm sure there's more transfery bits coming up as we get towards Christmas and into those things, but I thought it'd be fun to do something on these leading scorers. Some of these names we haven't talked about quite a lot over the course of the season so far, but it's important to give them their flowers for where they are as well, especially those lads who play in Estonia and the Faroe Islands and Latvia. It's crucial for those lads to get their love on Ranks FC. So it's nice to give them some flowers. But all that's left for me to do is say thank you very much to my co-host, Mr. Dean Jones.
Cheers, mate.
I've been Jack Collins. This has been Ranks FC. We'll be back tomorrow with a Champions League takeaway, looking back at all the action across match day 6. Used to be the last match day of the first stage of the Champions League. Not any longer, but I'm sure there'll be plenty to discuss across those episodes. We'll be taking a look in depth at all of those games, so make sure you're tuned in. But for now, thank you so much for listening as ever, and we'll see you really shortly, Rank Squad. Take it easy. Peace. The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks. The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions.
High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.